Hey everybody, I'm Chef Hurricane, and today I'm going to show you how to decorate a ball of yarn cake. Now before we get started, I want to go through some of the products and tools that you're going to need for this project. The first thing we have here is fondant. Now fondant is an edible sugar dough made from corn syrup and sugar that's used to make fancy decorations for wedding cakes and decorated cakes. Now you can find fondant at most craft stores, including places like Michael's. When you buy fondant, it comes in foil packages such as this, and you can get it in white or you can get it in different colors. Now if you get it in white, you have to color it yourself using these gels. Now I like to color my own, so for this project I decided to do that. And for this project we're going to use blue, pink, and black. Next we have our sculpting tools, which we're going to use to mold our fondant. First we have an actual sculpting tools set, which you can get at any craft store. It has different shapes that you can use to shape your fondant different ways. We have smoothers, which you use to smooth out your fondant when you're working on different surfaces. And we have a standard pizza cutter, which you can use to cut excess pieces of fondant away. We have small paint brushes, which we can use to either paint our fondant or we can use it to stick the fondant to things with water. And we have a rolling pin, which we're going to use to roll out our fondant so that it's workable. When we're rolling out our fondant, we're going to use a non-stick mat, and that keeps our fondant from sticking to our work surface while we get it prepared for our cake. Now, when we're using the mat to roll out our fondant, we're going to use powdered sugar as a medium just to prevent any sticking to the mat. Here we have what's known as an extruder or a clay gun, which we're going to use to make our strings out of our pink fondant for our cake. Now when you're using an extruder, you're going to want to use some Crisco or some other shortening to soften your fondant. Now the extruder that I have here comes with different fronts that you can make different shapes out of, but we have just a bunch of circles to make our string with. And like I'm saying before, you want to use your shortening. Okay, the next thing we need is a base for our cake for the finished product. Now all I've done here is took a piece of foam board and cut it into a circle and put fondant on it and smoothed it out. And when that was complete, I glued a ribbon to the base. Here we have an airbrush and an air compressor for some finishing touches on our cake. We're going to use an edible pearl dust to put a final coat of sheen on our cake. Now, these things are not necessary for our finished product, but they add a professional touch, which I think is worth the time and the effort. And last but not least, we're going to need one iced ball cake. Now you may be wondering, how did we get a cake that looks like a ball? Now the good people at Wilton have come up with a solution to this problem. What we have here is a ball cake pan in which you have two half balls that sit on these little rings, and you can use them to make two halves of a ball that turn into a ball cake. Now for this cake we just used a box mix in which we added one box of instant pudding mix. Now, if you're going to use an instant pudding mix, what it does is it adds structure, it adds support to the cake so that it can stay in the shape that you're trying to form. But if you're going to do that, then you have to change the recipe. Now, we're going to add some text here that's going to show you the differences in the recipe that we've done. And once you've done the differences here that we've put, then you're going to want to use your baking spray, which has flour in it. You're going to spray your pans down with this baking spray, and it's going to prevent your cake from sticking to your pan. Now you just fill up half of each ball with your batter. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to add our strings to our cake for our ball of yarn effect. Now we're going to take our pink fondant and use our extruder to make our strings, and once we've done that, we're going to apply them in a way that gives the effect. Now we're going to take 6 or 7 of our strings and we're going to go the entire length of the ball from one side all the way to the other. Now after we've done that, we're going to take diagonal strings and we're going to fill in the spaces on each side to give it the entire effect. Now we're going to use our paintbrush and our water to cover the cake, make it sticky so that our strings will stick. And once we've done that and we've smooth it all down. It should give us our desired effect. Here we have our finished ball of yarn. We've added all of our strings, and as you can tell here, once we've gotten everything complete, it really does look like a ball of yarn. So now what we have left to do is make our cat that is going to go on top of our cake. Now, how we're going to do that is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. We're going to use our color fondant and make different pieces that we're going to put together on top of our cake. And here we have all our cat pieces that are ready to go on our cake. Now for the body, we just made a teardrop out of our black fondant. And for the head, we just made a big egg shape, which is kind of an oval. And for the legs, we just flattened out 4 little sausages, and we put little pieces of white on the end, which we rolled out for the paws. Now for the tail, we just took a piece of black and kind of hooked it over. And for our ears, we made a couple of little triangles, which we added little pieces of pink on the inside. Now for the muzzle, we just took a piece of white and flattened it out into a small oval shape, and I kind of cut out the front using some of my tools and painted a smile on his face. For our nose, we used a little piece of pink and we made it into an upside down triangle and stuck it to his face. Now our eyes are white that have been inset with blue that have been inset with black. And here we have our pretty much finished product. Here you can see that I've just taken our cat and added a few strings for a little extra flair, you know, to give it some finishing touches. Now in the end, I'm going to add some sheen, some spray that we talked about before, just to give it a more professional touch. But this cake is pretty much done for all intents and purposes. It's a great cake for children's parties, for anybody that may like cats or anything like that. And it's a lot of fun to build. So I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and have fun.